with ZipRecruiter.
З командою щодо формату в Туреччині я очікую.
In his nightly address, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he's waiting to see who from Russia will attend ceasefire talks in Turkey tomorrow. Russian President Vladimir Putin proposed restarting talks, and Zelensky called on Putin to attend in person. The Kremlin so far refuses to confirm who will attend. The Israel Defense Forces Wednesday evening issuing a new evacuation order for the southern part of the Rimmel neighborhood in Gaza City, warning it will attack the area with extreme force targeting Hamas.
It comes after President Trump signaled a significant policy shift on Gaza, saying he's now working to end the war. Ceasefire negotiations are underway in Qatar today, and French President Macron launching a blistering attack on Israel's aid blockade of Gaza, calling it a, quote, disgrace.
ABC's Tom Sophie Burridge. The Commerce Department has rescinded a Biden-era rule that puts limits on the number of artificial intelligence chips which could be exported to certain international markets without federal approval. Former New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio has agreed to pay a $329,794 fine to settle an ethics board complaint that he misspent public funds on a security detail during his failed run for president in 2019. But the first time de Blasio admitted he received written warning that his out-of-state security expenses could not legally be covered by city taxpayers. The funds will eventually make their way back into the city treasury. Dave Packer, ABC News.
Surprise! Your expenses this month were way higher than you expected. Also, you forgot to renew your website domain, and now you're in a bidding war.
You should see the look on your face.
At Progressive, we know small business owners don't usually like surprises because they cost you money. But a good surprise that could save you money? Getting a commercial auto quote from Progressive.
Plus, the fridge died in the break room, and now everything smells weird.
All right.
Surprise yourself. See if you can save in as little as 7 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KBNU.
It's now 5:05 on this rainy Wednesday afternoon, and with your KBNU News headlines, I'm Will Feelright. Well, it's reportedly been a good spring for the Cache Community Food Pantry. They've had 2 profitable food drives, and monetary donations have reportedly helped the food pantry fill their food bins and keep them going for a while. Jake Netzley, who is assistant director for the facility, said that they've collected about 82,000 pounds of food, and money donations have also been up this year compared to last year. Now, they're especially grateful for everyone who helped with the Feed Utah food drive that occurred earlier this year, especially several businesses like Macy's and Lee's, which helped set up drop-off locations. Now, Netzley said the number of families coming to the pantry for help is leveling out, and they're starting to see things stabilize a little bit, but there is still plenty of need. Now, Matt Whitaker, the executive director for the food pantry, said he estimates about 35,000 pounds of food came in just over the weekend from the Stamp Out Hunger Letter Carriers food drive. The food pantry also received about $12,000 in donations recently from local financial institutions. Whitaker said they appreciate everyone's generous donations as they go a long way to help the people that depend on the pantry for food. Meanwhile, local parents, child care providers, and advocates gathered on the lawn of the historic Cache County Courthouse earlier this week for what was being called a day without child care. Now, speakers at the event on Monday highlighted the need for public investment in social services that supports working families and ensures fair wages and for providers and delivers safe, affordable care for all. Now, the family-friendly event featured Head Start and private child care providers and parents sharing stories and insights about the child care difficulties in Cache Valley and throughout Utah. The speakers also shared how cuts to food stamps, SNAP, and Medicaid benefits only make it harder for working families to survive. Now, there was also a stroller rally march down Main Street with parents, child care providers, and advocates joining together for child care in Utah. The Day Without Child Care is part of a national grassroots movement that highlights the critical role that child care plays in supporting families, the economy, and society as a whole. And Cashel Barnett, who appeared in the first season of Love Island USA, was recently charged with felony domestic violence in Utah. Barnett, who's 34, was charged with multiple felonies, and misdemeanors. Now, back on April 24th, a woman told officers with the Salt Lake City Police Department that she experienced abuse at the hands of Barnett on April 10th. Now, according to the probable cause statement, the two had gotten into an argument, and the woman said she attempted to hug Barnett to calm him down, but that he slapped her arms away. Now, she said that she then walked away from him into a bedroom, but claimed that Barnett followed her, picked her up by her neck, and slammed her on her bed. Now, she said he applied continuous pressure to the point that she could not breathe and slapped her again. The woman told officers she experienced difficulty breathing, a raspy voice, coughing, nausea, vomiting, memory loss, and even headaches. Now, she also said there was a minor child present during the incident. Now, prosecutors are recommending Barnett be booked and held without bail. Well, we've had clouds and some showers through the afternoon, and that's expected to continue on and off throughout the rest of the evening, as temperatures tonight dropping into the low 40s after we only made it into the low 50s today. And even more showers possible for tomorrow into Friday as temperatures are gradually warming up. We'll get into the mid-60s by Friday, but still a chance of some showers continuing into the weekend as well. And it's coming up tomorrow, Industrial Tool and Supplies annual Makita Spring Demo Days. It's the biggest sale of the year with the best prices on Makita tools. Yeah, it's the time to buy from 7:30 tomorrow morning till 6 o'clock tomorrow night. It's one day only at Industrial Tool and Supply, 839 North Main in Logan. And I'm Will Feelright with your KVNU News headlines.
Hey listeners, let's talk comfort. Specifically, how Cardinals insulation can help. Did you know the average home loses up to 35% of its heated or cooled air through the walls and roof? But here's the good news. When you call Cardinals, not only will you feel the difference with a quieter, more energy-efficient home, but you could also qualify for a tax credit up to $1,200. Save money year-round with Cardinals insulation. Call 755-5012. That's 755-5012.
The newsmakers, the stories. Get it all here. News Talk KVNU 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Daryl's Appliance is celebrating you this Saturday. That's right. It's Customer Appreciation Day. Come enjoy Daryl's homemade root beer and Betty's famous hot dogs and get an exclusive store credit of $55 with every $555 spent. There will be food, giveaways, and savings on Maytag, Cafe G, and more. Don't miss Customer Appreciation Day this Saturday at Daryl's Appliance, located west on Airport Road. Hurry in today and experience the Daryl's difference.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Kicking off hour 2 of today's show with a very special guest to join us to talk about some really important things happening at the federal level that affect Utah in various ways. And happy to introduce our guest here today, none other than Congressman Blake Moore. And Congressman Moore, I appreciate taking some time for KVNU today. I couldn't decide whether to start with the serious stuff or start with the thing that is most on my mind. And I decided bully pulpit, since I'm running the show here, I'll start with the thing most on my mind. You stuck your hand in a cow. Can you tell us about this?
First off, great intro music.
Thank you.
It's like picking a walk-up song for my son's Little League team when he chooses that.
Oh, perfect.
That was a good one there.
That's great.
The team that was kind of taking me on the tour of the poisonous plant facility there at Utah State, like they're we just got one more little stop to do, and I could see them snickering at each other, and that's when you know, like, okay, I'm getting set up for something here, and they were like laughing to each other. They knew what was coming, but I had no clue. I was totally blindsided, and I walk in there and I look and I go, why is there a hole in that cow's, like the side of that cow? Like it looks like it's just and little did I know, they just kept, goading me into it until I had my hand fully in the cow's stomach. They do amazing work. I'll say that. They do cool stuff. And it's important things to understand how diseases affect animals and particularly in that moment, the cattle. But it was literally like putting your hand in the lawnmower bag after you've done your grass clippings, because that's essentially every single thing in a cow's stomach is just mulch grass. And it was literally that same exact thing where you're just grabbing just handfuls of grass. It was fascinating, and I have done it, and I don't think I need to do it again.
I was going to ask, is this something you'd repeat? For listeners, this was a video that went viral here in northern Utah, and I had to take a second look. The video was sent to me, and I saw this arm with a rubber glove up to the elbow, and then is that Congressman Blake Moore? And it was. It was fun to see you doing that, and fun to see inside of some of the really, very high-tech work they do there. And of course, USU on this front, about to expand all of this with a new veterinarian school opening soon to students and more. So it was fun to see that spotlighted and kind of highlight some of the things that go on at what I think is still the premier research institution in the United States. Congressman Blake Moore again joining us, and I know following the news today, it's been a busy day. Later on, we can talk a little bit about you scored some big wins in a reconciliation bill discussion just earlier today. Your office announced that, but we invited you on the show here today to do some myth busting. Social media, it lends itself to people finding things to worry about, I think. And one of the rumors going around, mostly on Facebook, is that cuts that we've seen that have affected District 1 in smaller ways, cuts that have affected IRS employees there in Ogden and others through DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. Well, a rumor going around is that Hill Air Force Base is next. And as far as I can see, the only thing that's really changed for Hill Air Force Base is everyone there's driving into work again, right? Am I missing something?
Well, I've never been in more traffic going into Hill Air Force Base than I was just a few weeks ago, to be honest with you. And a lot of jokes there about, the return to work piece. It's like, well, it created a lot more traffic too. So if there is some remote capability, folks, we can also lean into that a little bit.
Sure.
So there's a sweet spot there. No, it was a very difficult start to the year, right? You
Sure.
represent probably one of the top 5% federal workforces in the country. An incredibly strong workforce. They do good work in every element that they do it, whether that's the Forest Service, to the IRS, to Hill Air Force Base. This was a really tough thing for our team to help and navigate, and there's still issues. It's still some tough decisions that are going to be made. But I learned, and our team in Ogden learned, over communicate. You listen. You're there for what their issues are, and you can do your best to communicate this back. We have been able to take a good, strong feedback loop back from the district to the White House and say, hey, we're concerned about areas that you're thinking about here. And candidly, DOGE came in, and I was not expecting them to be so heavy-handed in their approach to federal workforce. I think it was a mistake. I think a lot of the rhetoric that you saw from Elon Musk about the workforce wasn't true to what my experience has been with federal workers, and those folks want to be a part of the solution as well. And so there should have been more engagement with them instead of the way that the first few months played out. But President Trump realized that through a lot of feedback from members like me and other members that represent federal workforce districts, to saying like, hey, like this isn't going the right direction, and it's only going to cause an inability to get some really important things that DOGE does need to do done. And you saw President Trump come in and say, hey, Elon, DOGE, you guys are not in charge of personnel. The secretaries are each in charge of their own personnel. And that's when the shift goes to working, with each of the cabinet world. And you've seen, I think, a more reasonable approach to how to address this. There will be, in this moment, our executive branch and the cabinet agencies within there have grown significantly over several decades, and we need to make sure that they're right-sized. But doing it in a way that doesn't create just a bunch of legal headaches and animosity was also needed. So it feels like it's in a better spot right now, but I just left the IRS a couple weeks ago, and they've gone through some difficult times, and there's a lot of anticipation on what would come in the next couple months. Here's what I don't want to have happen with the IRS, and we can kind of sorry if I've elaborated too much, but I don't want to get through tax season and then say, oh well, May we can make a bunch more cuts, and then realize in a few months that October is another big tax season, and we now have a dearth of employment in this. We have to be willing to address that. That's the kind of feedback that we're giving to the administration. And Hill Air Force Base is in a really good spot. There were some potential probationary employees that were going to be let go. We stepped in to make sure that they were known. Being a probationary employee is not just grounds for, oh, you should let this person go quickly. They might be the most experienced person on the team. They're probationary because they've either moved divisions or they've been through some type of employment change or promotion or something. That is not a reason to just categorically let them go. And we had to step in and make sure that the Doge team understood what a probationary employee actually was.
And to be fair, all legitimate criticisms aside of heavy-handedness or things like that, or maybe being indelicate about this. This is what congressional representation is all about, right? You go to bat for your district. You work with, whether it's a Democrat in the White House or a Republican, you work with the administration and say, look, I'm here to represent my district. You wasted no time doing that, right?
Yeah, and actually, I love that you point that out because there's a nuance to this. When I'm I'm in the Republican conference, when there's a Democrat in the White House, they do not pay any attention to you. I don't even know if I had a number to call. You could tweet something, you could make a statement in opposition towards something they were doing, or if you ended up getting a bill passed, you celebrate that. And we did both, right? We had both of that during Biden administration. But when you have a Republican in the White House, you have a much closer connection. I can actually call somebody in the team, and I don't have to take a public position. I can work in the back channels to hopefully make some progress. And you get criticized for not being willing to speak out enough publicly, but you're actually doing a lot more behind the scenes. And I have the best team in the world, our legislative team in D.C. and our constituent team in Ogden. They've done the lion's share of the work on all the change that was going on, working with universities as potential funding got cut and finding ways to communicate the value and what they're doing and how they can navigate it. Like, there's been a lot of extra work that you do when you have a more favorable relationship with the White House. But it's a give and take on all angles. Whether whoever's in the White House, you've got to find a way to represent your district.
Our guest, again, Congressman Blake Moore, doing some myth busting, some of the things you may be reading on social media regarding Hill Air Force Base, not true, and also a big day in Washington, D.C. We didn't plan this. We'd actually planned to speak with Congressman Moore several weeks ago. We started the conversation on making this interview happen today, but serendipitous, a really big day in Washington, D.C., and I saw a press release from your office, Congressman, talking about this. And in fact, I remembered as I was reading this last year, we talked about in your second term, which is not common in the House of Representatives, in your second term, you were placed by Republican leadership on the Ways and Means Committee. And that really proved to be a great thing through this negotiations over the reconciliation process and the big budget bill, the big beautiful bill, as President Trump is calling it. You were able to influence this quite a bit, it looks like.
So that was why I worked so hard to get accepted onto this committee. And, you have to go through almost like your own campaign process to get on here. You're always campaigning in this job, they say. Well, that's no different when you're in Washington trying to be on the most influential committee. And the reason why it was so important to be on this one is because all of our major tax provisions that were enacted in 2017, and talk about needing to myth bust, we gave significant tax relief to American businesses and families, and our revenue still grew. Because if you do it in a way that's pro-growth, you are lowering the rate, broadening the base. You're not adding to the deficit, and you're able to create, strong wage growth and strong business growth. And it's just, and that's something that always gets communicated. Like this gets just, a whole bunch of lies and rhetoric gets spewed about that. But to the point that I'm making, a lot of that stuff from 2017 was going to expire at the end of this year. So it's very important that we get this tax bill done. And this committee is where it originates. And so for the last year, I would say well over a year, we've known that this is a potential that we can write this tax bill. And if we win the White House, House, and Senate, we can do it similar to what we did in 2017. That all happened. And we are, working, like, this has been all I've been working on for like 9 months now. And we got it through committee last night. It extends and makes permanent many of the 2017 provisions. It takes a crack at some of the things that we wanted to fix for a 4 to 5 year period. R&D expensing, investing in your company. You can have that as a business deduction. Those things create a lot of growth, open up room for hiring more employees, things like that. There's also the things that President Trump had, made some campaign promises on. Felt like wherever he was making another tax promise on the campaign. We couldn't deliver on everything.
Sure.
But we got a few of those key provisions. We're going to try them out for a few years and see how they work, settle in. If they're positive and there's not a lot of manipulation and gaming of the system, and you could maybe extend them. But we got some of those things through, and we got it done early this morning. It was like a 18-hour committee markup that ran through the entire night. We started at 2 in the afternoon and ran through 8 a.m. in the morning. There's even a clip of me dozing off for a second. My wife gave me a hard time about that. She's like, yeah, that's pretty much every Sunday for me, waking this guy up.
It really been fascinating to watch and to get some of the details as they were released this morning and see. And you personally, your influence on this, you also came through on some of the things you campaigned on and some of the things that have been priority issues for you. For listeners, I've linked to the press release from Congressman Moore's office on our Facebook page if you want to read these in greater detail. But things like increased incentives for paid leave and child care, which is something I know a lot of Utahns are really focusing on right now. You also were able to work in some, for lack of a better term, some pet project type things. You expanded or enhanced, rather, I guess would be the word, the adoption tax credit and the child tax credit. Can you give listeners a little detail on what that will mean if this bill is finally passed?
Yep. Thanks for highlighting those key provisions and being aware of kind of what we're working on. The child tax credit's been in place since the 90s. Republicans doubled it in 2017, moved it from $1,000 to $2,000. We've now moved it to $2,500, indexing it to inflation, just making sure families have a sense. We've made some of it permanent, made it permanent at $2,000 plus inflation, and we've even enhanced it for the next few years. So we're just trying to show families with young kids or teenage kids even, hey, you deserve a little relief. You're doing the right thing for our country. You're raising good families. You're preparing the next generation. You get this type of tax benefit. That is something that we value a lot, and we worked on it. And given the fact that I'm, the Utah voice on this committee, it's been awesome to be a part of pushing it. The adoption tax credit is something I obviously really care deeply about. My family, my brothers adopted his 4 children from infancy, and that's a very expensive thing to do. And he's enhanced multiple lives. They've enhanced multiple lives through this, not just the 4 of them, but the birth mother having a better option to choose from. Like, these things really matter, and sometimes there's a tax component to it. And I'll just quickly add, 2017, when you doubled the standard deduction, actually, in a way, took a little bit of an incentive for people to give to charities away because they were already getting the tax benefit. They didn't have to itemize their individual contributions to charities and churches and things like that. Now, it's only a small amount, but we're adding in an additional piece above that standard deduction line that will kind of give people a little bit more encouragement to donate to charities. It's called the Charitable Act. worked on it with Senator Lankford, and it's one of those things that while it's not a big number, it is a really significant win to showcase, hey, we still want to incentivize people to give to local charities, and we'll give you a bit of a tax break in order to do so.
This is a great example of how important what ends up being the minutia on big bills like this, things that don't make the talking head panels on CNN, but really the things that impact all of us more at the kitchen table level. And the list is long. We don't have time to go through them all here, but you can read about Congressman Moore's influence as a member of the Ways and Means Committee on this tax bill that, as the congressman mentioned, just went through a nearly 24-hour process, nonstop, refining this bill, getting it ready. And, of course, the fight isn't over. There's another whole chamber that gets to weigh in on all of this, and we'll see what happens. But if you want to see Congressman Moore's contributions in detail, we've skimmed some of them here, but the list is long, and I've linked again to that press release from this morning on our Facebook page. Our guest again has been Congressman Blake Moore. And Congressman Moore, always a pleasure to have you join us here on the show. I've taken more of your time than we asked for, and I'll stop doing that now, but I hope they give everyone a break for at least a little nap and some lunch before work on something else starts again. But thank you for taking some time out of an already busy couple of days to join us here.
Awesome. Hey, thanks so much, Jason. I was happy to join.
Our pleasure to have you. And to our listeners, our pleasure to have you with us as well. Stick around. More of KVNU's For the People right after this.
In our rural communities, EMS volunteers stand ready to help every day. Volunteers are ordinary people performing extraordinary acts. Many of these heroes lack access to essential health insurance for themselves and their families. It's time to give back. Utah has a new program that offers no-cost medical, dental, life, and long-term disability insurance to our rural EMS volunteers. Families may also be eligible for low-cost options. Become a licensed EMT, AEMT, or paramedic, and you and your family may be eligible. Visit utahcounties.org to learn more. That's utahcounties.org.
When the economy slows down, smart businesses in Cache Valley don't disappear. They get ahead. History shows companies that keep advertising during downturns grow faster when things turn around. And when others go quiet, your message stands out. Cache Valley Media Group gives you the tools, from radio to digital, to stay visible, stay relevant, and drive results. Don't pause your brand. Power it forward with Cache Valley Media Group. Cache Valley Media Group. Local reach, real results.
Give your family everything. Give them your time. From the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Congressman Blake Moore, our guest there, again, asked him for 10, 15 minutes, took 19, and they'd been up for 24 hours, he and his team, as the House debates or it marks up, I guess, is the technical term they use, the Ways and Means Committee's reconciliation bill. This has a long road ahead of it before it's going to be on the president's desk to sign. It has to finish the process in the House, a full vote and more, and then, of course, make its way to the Senate. Reconciliation means that the House and the Senate have kind of paused the regular voting process, and they'll sit down in conferences, various conferences, work out the details of the bill, and in the end have a bill that everyone knows is going to pass. That breaks down sometimes. So again, no guarantees on this, but some of the other items in the bill that Congressman Moore was able to influence, this I think for a lot of people might be exciting. I think it's one of the dumber things the Democrats did in their time in power in the Biden years. They passed a bill that created a requirement that you report any Venmo or PayPal or other gig service transactions over $600 to the IRS on your tax return, which is just fight white collar fraud. Go do that. I get that it's cheaper to put people making less money through more hoops. It costs less money for the IRS. The investigations are shorter and things like that. But go focus on high-dollar, white-collar fraud when it comes to taxes. Just for a while. Try it. Democrats did this with good intentions. The goal was basically to account for the fact that, we do more commerce, more business through these gig services, these digital services like Venmo, PayPal, and others. I think there's Zelle is still around, I think. Anyway, so the requirement was that anything over $600 in transactions or money you made or were paid, things like that, had to be reported to the IRS. In addition to, if you're doing it, because a lot of businesses use Venmo, but they're already required to report business transactions through their business tax filing. So this was on a personal level. Anyway, it was just a dumb thing. I saw where they were going, what they're trying to do. They're trying to account for the fact that a lot of commerce takes place now on these gig services. And yes, the IRS does have to account for that. But anything over $600? That's just causing a pain in the butt for people who are selling things at farmers markets and things like that. Leave them alone. Go after the big ones, the big fraudsters. So other things in the bill, lowering the cost of borrowing for farmers. This is actually reducing interest income tax requirements on loans that are secured by anyone that is buying property for agricultural production, not just general agricultural use, agricultural production, meaning they're actually growing something. If they're buying the land for that and they bought it through a loan, then the tax on that interest is reduced. These are minor things. I get it. Not everyone cares about these things, but this is really what a tax markup period is all about, minutia. That doesn't make for big, sexy headlines. So check it out. It's a lengthy list that Congressman Moore's team put out this morning when the committee finished the markup process. It was an 18-hour process. They worked through the night. I've linked to it on our Facebook page. You can also find it at blakemore.house.gov right there on the front page. And we'll be back with more of KVNU's For the People on the other side of these headlines with KVNU's Will Feel Right.
Thank you, Jason. A 45-year-old Brigham City man was arrested earlier this week for allegedly making threats with a knife after a man parked a loud truck at a Hiram gas station, interrupting an outdoor conversation, according to law enforcement. Kyle Vic Anderson was booked Monday morning into the Cache County Jail. Now, according to a probable cause statement, Anderson was speaking with at least two other people outside the gas station Monday morning when the diesel pickup drove up. Now, he reportedly became frustrated and confronted the driver. Witnesses told deputies that Anderson became aggressive with the man, who turned his truck off and then walked into the gas station. Now, deputies reported surveillance video showed Anderson walk out of the store, then draw a knife. Witnesses said he began pacing outside the gas station. Now, employees and customers saw the knife and locked the store doors until law enforcement arrived. Due to the proximity of South Cache Middle School, the school was temporarily placed on lockdown as a precaution. Anderson was booked into jail on multiple misdemeanors and then later released pending arraignment of formal charges. In other news, a 37-year-old Utah man is in the hospital following a shooting that happened with the Ogden Police Department. Now, the man, whose identity has not been released pending the investigation, is reportedly in stable condition. Now, according to police officers, the incident happened early yesterday morning. Police say that one of the officers was encountering a 37-year-old walking along Wall Avenue near the 2200 block. Now, during the encounter, police say the suspect pulled out two knives that had been in his pockets. The officer ordered the suspect to stop walking towards him, but he didn't, causing the officer to fire his weapon. Now, the suspect was taken to the hospital and is listed in stable condition. The shooting is now under investigation, with Weber County Attorney's Office leading that investigation. The officer has been placed on administrative leave. And the Idaho legislative session might be over, but one lawmaker is already looking to next session for ways to make the state more affordable. Now, Idaho, similar to Utah, is among 20 states where the minimum wage is still in line with a federal rate of $7.25 per hour. Now, State Representative Todd Achilles, a Boise Democrat, notes that that rate hasn't changed in 15 years, even though the cost of living continues to go up. Now, according to the MIT Living Wage Calculator for Ada County, for instance, the wage needed for one person without kids to get by is more than $25 an hour. Now, Achilles says the minimum wage is intended to be a living wage, but the current floor is at an unlivable rate. Now, the Boise Democrat says that one of the main pushbacks against raising the wage that he's encountered so far is the argument that the market should determine the appropriate rate. But Achilles says that he wants to see a healthy labor market, and in many parts of Idaho, he isn't convinced that the markets are competitive. Now, this past session, he introduced a bill that would have raised the minimum wage to $17 by July of 2027. He explained that he introduced the bill late in the session to start a conversation in an effort to try to get an adaptation of that bill approved before next session. Well, going to continue to see a chance of some showers with these clouds overnight tonight as temperatures will drop into the low 40s and more rain likely for tomorrow, beginning to taper off by Friday. But we could even still see some showers possibly into the weekend on Saturday and Sunday as well. And weather, as part of the news, is brought to you by Napa Auto Parts. When it comes to getting your machines moving, they've got the parts and the oil you need at any of their 5 locally owned locations from Preston to Providence. And remember, you can also order online and pick it up in their stores. It's napaonline.com. And I'm Will Theelwright with your KVNU News headlines.
ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. President Trump continuing his 3-nation Mideast trip, spending the day in Qatar. At a signing ceremony with the Emir, Qatar agreeing, says Trump, to buy Boeing jets.
The president today said that there is about $250 billion in economic deals now with this agreement between the United States and Qatar. And part of that is that deal with Boeing, that they're going to purchase planes in Qatar from Boeing, that the White House says is the largest deal ever for Boeing for wide-body planes and 787s.
ABC's Karen Travers. He's a vaccine skeptic, but Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. told a House committee today,
I don't think people should be taking medical advice from me.
Torrential rains in the mid-Atlantic. They're deadly now. A 12-year-old boy swept away by rushing water on a Virginia roadway. 20-year-old Phoenix Ickner indicted today 9 felony counts, including first-degree murder charges for last month's shooting at Florida State University that left 2 people dead, 7 wounded. This is ABC News.
Makita Demo Days is back. This is Cody with Industrial Tool and Supply in Logan. This Thursday from 7:30 to 5:30 p.m. it's our biggest Makita sale of the year. Find deals on your favorite Makita LXT tools, like the new 21-degree framing nailer. Buy an LXT 3-speed impact driver for $99 and get a free bit kit, or buy the 2-piece drill and impact kit for $409 and get 2 free batteries. All other Makita tools on sale for employee pricing. Industrial Tool and Supply's Makita Demo Days this Thursday at ITS in Logan.
Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. I have no idea if this is early or late in the season, but the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources has documented and made public, Utah Division of Wildlife Resources today, Darren DeBluis, the game mammals coordinator, in a press release today announcing that the first human-cougar interaction of 2025 has been documented. This is outside of Zion National Park, actually. Now, nothing bad happened. It was just a run-in on a trail, and they said that with that in mind, they were putting out their what is basically an annual, sometimes multiple times a year, public service announcement, because it may be news to you, maybe not. This is cougars, mountain lions, pumas, whatever you call them, are pretty common in Utah. They're a Utah native, and some data that they sent along with this press release today surprised me. Since the mid-1800s, there have actually only been 29 fatal cougar attacks in all of North America. That data is tracked by the Mountain Lion Foundation. So you are more likely to be struck by lightning than attacked by a cougar. So this is not cause for panic. The problem is that when it comes to non-fatal interactions with mountain lions, with cougars, those tend to be pretty common in Utah and can be extremely frightening, dangerous for pets, and you are almost guaranteed to be injured in some way if you have a direct interaction with these fairly large cats. So the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources, in their, again, annual public service announcement as we enter the warm months and people start going outside more, they have some pretty basic tips for you. Now, before we get to what you should do if you do find yourself on a trail face to face or looking up in a tree and it's looking down at you, a mountain lion, here are some ways to avoid getting in that situation in the first place. And it's some pretty simple stuff. The Utah Division of Wildlife Resources lists several what they call precautionary steps to just avoid an interaction with a cougar, even from a distance. And the most basic one, the easiest one to do, is don't hike or jog alone. There are two reasons for this. If you do run into a mountain lion, two of you is going to be more effective than one at scaring it off, or at least convincing it to leave you alone, which is kind of what you're really doing if you run into a mountain lion. If you are hiking together, you're more likely to be talking and making noise as well, or more noise at least. And that's a great way to make sure they leave before you even see them, which is usually what happens. Some other tips they have. Maintain awareness. Be familiar with what cougar country is. And that can be kind of complicated. So during the summer months, the warmer months, cougars are most commonly found in the foothill areas, in canyons, and Utah Wild Aware says most specifically in the pinyon juniper and pine oak brush, which usually is around, rocky cliff and ledge areas. They also like tall trees and brush. They like to be able to hide and see you before they see them. And so you're talking basically, now this isn't guaranteed. They do go lower and they do go higher. But Wild Aware Utah says that the most common place to run into a mountain lion is on a trail between 4,500 and 7,500 feet in dry and rocky areas with pinyon juniper growing all around. If you're in that area, you're in cougar country, and not the BYU one. So that is, they said, maintaining that awareness, being aware of when you're in an area where you could possibly run into a cougar. And again, most likely it's going to see you before you see it, and it's going to leave. But that doesn't always happen. So they also recommend that if you're out running, hiking, or jogging in the wild or in an area above 4,500 feet elevation where you could run into a cougar, one, know that that's possible. That's the biggest step you can take. And two, avoid using things that limit your observation of the area around you, like headphones. Traveling in groups, keep everyone together. Make sure children and dogs especially are not straggling behind or leading way ahead. Make noise while hiking. Not a lot. You don't have to, you don't have to be, I can't believe I forgot the actor's name from, I'm thinking of the scene from Mary Poppins. The one-man band uniform. Anyway, it's one of those days. We're not talking that. We're talking just talking, making your presence known through the normal noise of a couple people walking on a trail is a great way to avoid an interaction with a mountain lion. If you see a dead animal, don't stay there, especially if it's a deer or elk, and especially if it looks fresh. You have most likely come upon a cougar kill, and it is most likely left when it saw you coming, but not far. It's not far away, and it might decide to try and reclaim what it feels it worked very hard for. So if you see a dead animal, and especially one that looks fresh, don't hang out there. make your way past that as soon as you can without running. If you live in an area near deer habitat, and there's a lot of that here in Cache Valley now, especially as homes have been built further out into that, basically the wildfire interface, firefighters call it. If you live in those areas, if you see a lot of deer and elk in the wintertime or the springtime around your yard, then you're in cougar country, and different conditions change where they hunt, and some of that can be just weather. So if you live in those areas, don't leave children outside unattended, especially at dawn or dusk. Now, that's a horrible thing to even think about, but Utah DWR says this is something that has come up before, and they didn't provide details on that. But as a deterrent, install outside motion-sensitive lighting around your property. That can be a good deterrent around your home. And trim vegetation or wood piles, things like that, anywhere that a large animal could hide. Don't give them the cover; they won't hang out there. And of course, keep an eye on pets and livestock at night, or secure them in a barn if you are seeing signs of cougar activity. Oftentimes, cougars apparently will kind of case the joint. They'll come around a couple of times, maybe a few nights in a row, before actually making a move on livestock or a pet. But if they're hungry enough, they'll do that. And so finally, that's the list of how to avoid an interaction in the first place. DWR says that as the weather warms and we all head outside more, here's what you need to know. If you're not able to avoid the interaction with a mountain lion in the first place, here's what you do if you run into one. So first off, never run. That triggers an instinct in cougars to chase. If you've ever had a house cat, you know exactly what we're talking about. They're related. Maintain direct eye contact. Don't turn your head. Don't turn your back. Pick up small children or pets. Keep them close to you so they don't, go out and challenge or become a target. Stand up tall. Stand up on your feet. Broaden your shoulders. Do not crouch or squat. DWR says that mountain lions read this as a hunting threat, and you'll make them feel like you're hunting them if you're crouching or squatting, and they'll sometimes attack to defend themselves. Make yourself look bigger. Raise your arms. If you have a jacket on, spread that out. Swing it around your head. All of those things. Anything you can do to make yourself look bigger and noisier, the better. And then if that doesn't work, in a firm, very loud voice, just start talking. Recite something you have memorized, the lyrics to a song, whatever it might be, in a loud voice. You just make noise in a firm, loud voice, and slowly back away. Do not turn your back. Do not run. Just make noise, make yourself look big, and slowly back away. If you are attacked, DWR says fight. These animals are large, but you're not talking about, the size of an elephant. So it is possible that you can create enough of a nuisance of yourself, even if you are attacked, to have them decide to go off and find something easier to eat. But protect your head and neck. That's where a mountain lion will target bites and claws. So fight back if you are attacked. And if you are aggressive enough, DWR says, the cougar will most likely give up. So I know those aren't pleasant things to think about, but there was a story told in the press release today that's worth noting here. Again, Utah Division of Wildlife Resources Game Animals Coordinator in the press release says typically cougars trying to prey on something, it will sneak up and ambush them. When a cougar lunges or bluffs a charge at someone, they're typically just trying to drive them out of the area because they have kittens maybe or a kill nearby they're trying to protect. And they tell the story of Burgess. I've scrolled up in the press release and I can't find his name now. Kyle Burgess. He now is on record of, in 2020, surviving a mountain lion attack. He was on a run in Slate Canyon near Provo, and he details the story of basically, and it's on video, about 8 million views on YouTube. And he explains in the video exactly what he did in the case of this cougar confrontation. And DWR says he did everything you should. He tried to avoid it in the first place. When that didn't work, he made himself tall, swung his jacket around, even took his shirt off to swing it in the other arm, so he's making a big flag out of himself, talking firmly and backing away. It didn't work. The cougar did attack. He starts throwing punches and pushing and kicking and all of that, and eventually the cougar gives up and leaves, and he ends up with minor injuries. And he's now out there telling the story because he said this is an area that he'd been out hiking and jogging in his entire life since he was a kid, almost every day. And then just randomly one day ran into a mountain lion. So some good advice from DWR there. Check it out. I've posted a link to their tips on both how to avoid an interaction in the first place, easy enough to do, and if you're unlucky enough to actually have a confrontation, what to do in those situations. And again, some simple stuff. Don't run, don't crouch or squat, make yourself big, talk loudly in a firm voice, slowly back away if you can, and if none of that works and you are attacked, fight back as aggressively as possible. So some great tips. It is that season, and this is more common in Utah, officials say, than most people realize. Check it out. I've linked to it on our Facebook page, or you can visit the Department of Wildlife Resources website for additional tips, even some video on this and other animal interactions that are possible here in northern Utah. That's linked on our Facebook page, and we'll be back right after this.
Here's Chad Norton, the lawn doctor, with a tip for your lawn.
Warmer temperatures have both weeds and grass competing for space in your yard. Dandelions, thistle, clover, morning glory will all be kept under better control when you have us applying pre-emergence and weed control. At the same time, we can feed your grass to make sure it wins the battle and keep it lush and growing all season long. Regular visits from the lawn doctor will help your lawn be healthier and pest-free.
Fertilizer, weed, and pest control. Call Chad Norton, the lawn doctor, at 753-LAWN. Follow them on Facebook or go to LawnDoctorCashValley.com.
Fatigue, headaches, weight gain, hair loss, insomnia, anxiety, intestinal issues, joint pain. Do you suffer from consistent symptoms like these, and no matter how many doctors you see, things still don't improve? Whether you have a thyroid problem, an autoimmune issue, or chronic symptoms, we can help. We do complex medical testing and blood work to find the mechanisms driving your symptoms. And then we create a plan to improve each one while we teach you the tools to stay on top of your health. We've been helping patients just like you for almost 14 years now. We see patients from all over the world, and we have an office in St. George, Logan, Salt Lake, Farmington, and Springville. You aren't crazy, you aren't lazy. It's not just because you're getting older, and these symptoms are not normal. No matter what symptoms you have, you shouldn't feel this way, and we can help. Don't accept Band-Aid answers.
Call Red River Health and Wellness at 855-55-RIVER.
Call Red River today.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for about 5 seconds. Stop texts, stoprex.org.
Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. See what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Since we started the show on such a negative note with that legal analysis of the hypothetical, well, not hypothetical, the possible impacts of a dried and decimated Great Salt Lake and how it would impact business in Utah, we'll wrap up on a much more positive note. Something kind of interesting I ran across. We've heard talk recently, and you know, the Congress would have to act to make this happen, but it isn't something the president can do through executive order. But President Trump has let it be known that he hired famous for wrestling Linda McMahon as education secretary to basically hollow out and make ineffective the Department of Education. Congress would actually have to pass a bill actually, you know, disbanding it. But so that's what's happening. And people, you know, this seems like a big deal, and it is. Education is important and important to a lot of people, and concerns about who picks up the slack haven't been answered. I get it. But ending a federal agency is not a new thing. And it just hasn't happened for a long time. And so I ran across this via Mental Floss. This is a list of some of the old-timey federal agencies that no longer exist and their titles. There's a War Production Board. Yeah, that was actually a thing. The War Production Board's job was to build 60,000 warplanes in a year, or at least that was the goal. This was established in 1942, and that's exactly what they did. They rationed production materials while launching a nationwide scrap recycling program, and by the end of the war in 1945, their name was changed to the Civilian Production Board, which encouraged the same factories working on the provisions for war, Ford, Chrysler, GM, others, to use their now larger facilities, thanks to taxpayer funding, to produce more cars and refrigerators to meet consumer demand. There was also something at one point called the Office of Road Inquiry. This is, I never knew this, a bit of history I'd never heard before. But the Office of Road Inquiry was created in 1893. And the bit of history I didn't know is that paved roads in America weren't built for cars. They were built for bicycles, and the Office of Roads Inquiry, formed in 1893, was formed to look at the pros and cons of paving streets. This was part of something called the Good Roads Movement, also a thing I'd never heard of. This was a very loud but small group of cyclists. Bikes were all the rage in the late 1890s. I mean, everyone had one of those way too big front-wheel bikes. And dirt roads were difficult to maintain and often, very unpleasant for the bike riders as well. And so there was this movement to pave them. And so this Office of Road Inquiry was formed to look into it. It had a very small budget, and their entire purpose was to determine whether or not it was worth it. So there you have it. Some federal agencies that once existed that no longer do. If you want to see the full list, there's some funny ones on here. I've linked to it on our Facebook page. And I got a kick out of just reading the names themselves. The U.S. Metric Board. Yeah, that doesn't exist anymore. Check it out. I've linked to it on our Facebook page. That's our show for today. Thank you for tuning in. Dave Ramsey is next here on KVNU Logan.